Hey everyone, welcome back to the Smart Jeevan channel. I'm absolutely thrilled you're joining us today. Now, if you're new around here, you gotta know our entire mission at Smart Jeevan is laser focused on one thing, and that's your continuous growth. We basically exist to break down the world's most impactful book summaries, distilling all those brilliant ideas, fascinating insights, and profound life lessons so you can literally upgrade your own life, your mindset, and your daily routines. We do the heavy lifting of reading and analyzing so you get all the pure concentrated knowledge. It's a real game changer. Today, oh man, today we are embarking on a truly wild journey. We're doing a deep dive explainer on one of the absolute most polarizing, innovative, and intensely driven figures of our modern era. We're talking about Ashlee Vance's definitive biography of Elon Musk. But listen, we aren't just going to sit here and look at shiny cars or big rockets. No way. We're going to examine the psychology, the intense drive, and the immense personal cost of trying to change the world. So let's get right into it. Picture this for a second. You're sitting at a super high-end seafood restaurant, right in the heart of Silicon Valley. You've been waiting a while. Actually, you've already settled down with a gin and tonic because the guy you're meeting is, true to form, running late. Finally, he walks in. It's Elon Musk. He's rocking a leather jacket, carrying the literal weight of multiple massive industries on his shoulders. So the dinner goes on, and you're covering everything from the future of electric cars to the absolute doom and gloom scenarios of artificial intelligence. And then, right near the very end of this incredibly intense dinner, he looks you dead in the eye and drops this jarring, intimate question. He asks, "Do you think I'm insane?" That is exactly how Ashlee Vance's journey into the world of Elon Musk kicks off. It's wild, right? And it sets the absolute perfect stage for everything we're about to explore today. Okay, let's dive into this. Ashlee Vance's book isn't just your standard run-of-the-mill timeline of Silicon Valley startups. It's this profound psychological and thematic breakdown of a man who just operates on a completely different frequency than the rest of us. Vance spent a massive amount of time with Musk. He interviewed his friends, his family, his ex-wives, and his employees because he wanted to completely bypass all that polished public relations spin. He wanted to understand the actual reality of the man. And you know what he found? He found that depending entirely on who you ask, the reality of Elon Musk shifts dramatically.
Part 1. Savior or P.T. Barnum?
To really understand Musk, you've got to first understand the environment that created him, and that's Silicon Valley. But as Vance points out, Silicon Valley kind of operates within its own warped version of reality. It's like this shared fantasy where the narrative surrounding Musk is viewed through two incredibly extreme, totally polarized lenses. There is practically zero middle ground here. On one side, you have this techno-utopian view. This camp, which is usually a mix of hardcore engineer absolutists, they look at Musk's willingness to tackle utterly impossible things and basically treat him like a deity. To them, he's the undisputed next Steve Jobs, the guy who's going to use sheer hyperlogical engineering to save us all. But then, you step outside that little bubble, and you hit the cynics. The cynics look at the exact same guy and see a sci-fi version of P.T. Barnum. They see a remarkably wealthy showman who's just preying on people's fears about the environment to sell them super expensive electric cars, as a way to clear their conscience. And it's funny, because the author himself, Ashlee Vance, openly admits that for a long time, he was a total subscriber to that second, cynical camp. He actually thought Musk was just peddling false hope.
Part 2. The real-life rocket factory.
So Vance's cynical perspective gets completely shattered when he's finally invited to step through the front doors of SpaceX headquarters in Los Angeles. He was fully expecting more typical Silicon Valley talk, more highfalutin promises, right? Instead, he walks into this massive facility. It was actually a former Boeing factory that used to make fuselages for 747s. And inside, it wasn't just a bunch of guys sitting around on laptops. It was an honest-to-God, heavy-duty factory. And they weren't just making one rocket at a time. They were making multiple rockets, completely from scratch. The sheer staggering scale of the physical engineering happening right in front of his eyes instantly killed his cynicism. The reality of what was happening on that factory floor reflected this massive shift in the public narrative. Because you see, by the early part of 2012, no matter how much the critics and the cynics wanted to dismiss him, they were practically forced to take notice of what Musk was actually accomplishing out there in the real world. His companies, which had been previously bleeding money and constantly on the absolute brink of death, were suddenly pulling off the impossible.
The year 2012 was definitely the undeniable turning point. Just look at these twin successes. First off, SpaceX did something that only massive nations used to do. They flew a supply capsule all the way to the International Space Station and brought it safely back to Earth. Mind-blowing. And in that exact same year, Tesla Motors delivered the Model S. This wasn't just some clunky electric car. It was a gorgeous, high-performance sedan that literally took the automotive industry's breath away and, as Vance brilliantly puts it, slapped Detroit sober. These unprecedented feats proved once and for all that his companies weren't just vaporware. They officially elevated Musk to the absolute rarest heights among business titans.
And this brilliantly illustrates Musk's absolute superpower, what the book defines as merging atoms and bits. This is his unique ability to take the rapid, iterative, super-logical skills used by software makers, the bits, and apply them directly to heavy, physical machines, the atoms. He was taking these massive, kind of stagnant industries like American aerospace and automotive, industries that America had seemingly just given up on innovating, and he recasts them as something entirely new and fantastic. He managed to bridge the gap between the digital world and the physical world in a way literally nobody thought was possible.
Part 3. A general marshaling troops.
Now, achieving that kind of unprecedented success requires an equally unprecedented leadership style. If you're coming into this expecting a traditional polished CEO who sits up in a corner office optimizing quarterly profits, well, that is definitely not Elon Musk. The book paints this vivid picture of a man who acts much less like a standard executive chasing a paycheck and much more like a possessed genius on some grand epic quest. He operates like a general marshaling his troops to secure absolute victory against totally impossible odds. To really understand why employees subject themselves to his grueling standards, we have to look at this stark comparison. In a place where so many startups are just focused on getting incremental user clicks, the missions here are vastly different. I mean, where Mark Zuckerberg wants to help you share baby photos, Elon Musk's stated goal is to literally save the human race from self-imposed or accidental annihilation. That isn't hyperbole. That is the actual, literal mission statement. And this incredibly meaningful worldview is exactly why Musk commands such bizarre, intense loyalty. His employees are well aware they're trying to achieve the impossible day in and day out, but the mission is just so massive it pulls them right in.
Part 4. The empathy blind spot. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is understanding the severe personal cost of that relentless drive, both to himself and to everyone around him. To truly get inside the mind of Elon Musk, Ashlee Vance introduces the perspective of Justine, Musk's ex-wife. She provides one of the absolute most penetrating insights into his character, highlighting what is essentially a massive empathy blind spot. Justine notes that Musk simply isn't the kind of person who will say, "I feel you, I see your point of view." He doesn't natively possess that emotional dimension. Instead, he comes at the world strictly through strategy and pure intellect. If an idea is logically flawed, he will brutally shoot it down, completely regardless of the feelings or the seniority of the person presenting it. Human emotion is totally secondary. The mathematical and logical truth of the engineering problem is literally all that matters to him.
This lack of an "I feel you" dimension translates directly into a genuinely terrifying management style. Employees are subjected to entirely unrealistic goals, incredibly blunt, sometimes really harsh criticism, and they are worked to the absolute bone. He routinely drives his young engineers completely mad. But, remarkably, it's often forgiven. Why? Because the employees understand that the verbal abuse and the exhausting hours are, on some level, just a necessary part of the Mars agenda. They accept the pain because they truly believe the mission to colonize space and secure humanity's future demands nothing less. Part 5. Financing the Grand Quest.
Of course, vision and grueling hard work aren't enough on their own, right? You still have to pay for the metal, the rocket fuel, and the payroll. And the financial reality of running multiple highly capital-intensive hardware companies was utterly terrifying. The grand vision basically required walking a fiscal tightrope over a bottomless abyss. If we rewind just a few years before his massive successes, we see a picture of a man pushed to the absolute financial brink. Just look at the tumult of 2007 and 2008. Tesla basically had to start completely over on much of the Roadster, just bleeding money. Simultaneously, SpaceX had dozens of people living on the remote island of Kwajalein, awaiting the next launch of the Falcon 1, facing delay after agonizing delay. Both endeavors were just vacuuming up his personal fortune at an astonishing rate. The pressure was so intense that Musk started selling off his prized personal possessions, including his beloved McLaren sports car, just to generate some extra cash to make payroll. Yet through all of this immense gravity, he personally managed the finances, approved the purchases, and shielded his employees from the true terror of the situation so they could just keep focusing on doing their best work. Which brings us to the core tension of Ashlee Vance's biography and the ultimate takeaway for our Smart Jeevan community today. We've seen the myth,
the reality, and the staggering achievements born from an absolute refusal to accept the impossible. But we've also seen the collateral damage, right? The grueling hours, the blunt criticism, the missing "I feel you" dimension. So I'm going to leave you with this final, provocative thought to ponder. Does changing the world on a massive, species-altering scale fundamentally require ignoring the feelings of the people in it? Can you be a visionary savior and a compassionate human at the exact same time? Or does true greatness demand a ruthless, hyperlogical sacrifice? Think about that as you apply your own ambition to your life. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep learning, keep questioning, and I'll see you next time.